right, hello everyone. Another episode. It's another episode of the Midnight Burial Podcast. It is Thursday, May 15th. It's 11:05. My alarmo just went off 11 times, and I was thinking, I wonder if the microphone will pick that up. But thankfully, at midnight it won't go off anymore. That's what I've set for the bedtime. So, let's see how long I talk this evening. I hope everyone is doing well. Have a couple topics that I'll be touching upon tonight. I guess the primary one, the lead-off one, is going to be the opening of Nintendo San Francisco here in the Bay Area. I got to go 2 days early, so I was able to check it out. It was sort of a press event here in the Bay Area for the press and streaming personalities. So like whoever. I don't know anyone that was there. You can kind of tell who's a streamer. They just sort of have a look. And then more traditional kind of media. There was also someone who I swear it seemed like they were trying to sneak in. But I don't know, because I saw them outside and they were given some weird credentials, but they didn't get to go in. So anyway, that was interesting. My thoughts. So I think my first thought goes back to when it was announced. So Nintendo reveals, hey, we're going to have a store in San Francisco. It's going to be in, Union Square. And I'm like, are we talking about the same Union Square that's become something of a retail ghost town? Is that the one we're talking about? Look, I'm just keeping it real, man. I've grown up my entire life in the Bay Area, okay? So I'm not like I moved here from Iowa so I could take a tech job sort of person. I've lived in the Bay Area for 10 years. Okay, live here your whole life and see how you feel then. So I was not totally understanding the logic in putting it here. I believe that in the past few years, it's been 95 stores and counting all throughout Union Square have shut down. And, if you're someone who traveled to SF like in the past, even a decade ago, San Francisco was different than it is now. 20 years ago, San Francisco is way different than it is now. Now, full disclosure, I'm not the world's biggest San Francisco fan. My father is a dyed-in-the-wool Oaklander, okay? My family has actually, it's like centuries of Bay Area experience. One of my favorite things to say is when you do a land acknowledgement, well, I would just tell you you're welcome, because apparently I have like native blood for here in the Bay Area. So, but yeah, East Bay, my family, Oaklanders. And so I grew up with a lot of pride for the city of Oakland and a lot of annoyance with San Francisco, mainly from the media side of things. There's a lot of anti-Oakland media bias here in the Bay Area. Not that anyone here really watches the news anymore, but, you would never know, for example, that KTVU broadcasts from Jack London Square, considering how far they have their heads shoved up San Francisco's ass. So those are my thoughts on the city. Now, the city itself, though, of course, there's some great places to go. As kids, my dad would take us to San Francisco for a variety of different things. And, as a younger man, there were times I'd find myself in San Francisco doing things. I liked going to the big Westfield Mall that was downtown, especially when Mito was in there. And I would get art supplies and drawing supplies, writing supplies, mixture of both. Like, if you've never been to a Mito, oh, man. I think Kinokuniya owns them. That's the Japanese bookstore chain. And Mito is just stuffed with Japanese imports of paper, notebooks, paints, pens, everything you can think of, writing implements. Incredible stuff. Going on a tangent. So that was one thing that would draw me to the city. Japantown, of course, was another. In fact, the bus stop right next to Nintendo SF is the one I'd jump on to go down Geary to go to Japantown. So I have affinity for that aspect of, growing up around here, being a young man here. Metreon, oh, that was another one, just like PlayStation Utopia, right? It's a shadow of itself. Like, San Francisco is nothing like what it was years ago. In fact, I'll give you a story so you can better understand where I'm coming from. So, if you are online and you see videos of like what a hellscape San Francisco is, just mounds of trash and shit, encampments, people drugged out of their minds. It looks like an episode of The Walking Dead. So I'll be fair, right? I have gone to San Francisco and I go to San Francisco. It is not a regular part of my commuting, my day-to-day driving, anything, right? So I see some of those videos and think, I wonder how, bad it is. Because as somebody who loves Oakland, I used to get annoyed with people who tried to like play up, oh, Oakland's terrible. It's like, yeah, whatever. If you go into Deep East Oakland, yeah, something terrible will probably happen to you, but don't go to Deep East Oakland. But with San Francisco, I was like, maybe something similar. And I'm the last person who's going to defend SF. But I have a friend, right? She had a job in San Francisco. Her job was on either 6th or 7th Street. I can't remember. Very close to downtown. And one time I had business that was sort of nearby. And I told her, I'll tell you what, I'll take you to work. I'm going to do the thing I need to do. By the time you get out of work, I'll just take you home too. So she's like, okay. So I go to drop her off. She starts work pretty early, all right? But even at this early hour, I can tell it's a little sketchy around her job. And she told me some things. I'm like, all right, drop her off. I go do what I need to do. I come back. I'm like, all right, I'm going to park. And then I'm going to walk downtown and I'm going to go to, which one is it? It's not Flax. They used to have Flax in San Francisco. At Blix. I'm going to go to Blix. Giant art store, okay? Very awesome, by the way. If you love art, go to Blix. I was like, I'm going to check it out. I know it's not that far from where she works. So I park and I'm like, I'm going to go on foot. Oh, I went on foot, my friends, and I'm like, oh, this is exactly the shit that's in those videos. People walking upside down doing the fentanyl lean, like they are, like legitimately twisted upside down. You would think that they were a contortionist. People talking to themselves, garbage and shit everywhere. And that's the thing about San Francisco. You might have heard that there is a map online somewhere where people like keep track of where human shit mounds are. That is a legit thing in San Francisco. Like, there's just shit everywhere. Feces, urine, drug needles. Like, it is legitimately disgusting in huge chunks of the city. Now, don't get it twisted. Yeah, there's plenty of spots that are still moderately decent, normal in San Francisco. But for the most part, you are seeing this everywhere. It doesn't matter how nice of a part of town it is. And that's what makes the decline so unusual, is that San Francisco has always been kind of known for having homeless. Even when I was a kid, San Francisco has always had rougher parts of town. But then there were the better parts of town that you could go to and sort of escape this stuff. That's not the case anymore. So, you get to downtown and, the beautiful Westfield Mall that I was talking about, and then you got Union Square. All of that is just slowly but surely businesses closing. Because what's the point of being open when, for one thing, nobody wants to actually be foot traffic around there, except for defenseless out-of-towners who think that they're showing up to San Francisco from 2005. It's like, no, SF of 2025 is legitimately a hellscape. Yeah, are their businesses still open? Sure. And they were fortunate enough to get Nintendo, for whatever reason, to open up in a prime retail spot. But overall, it's a nightmare. I remember I went to Blix, I came back, I looked at my friend, I was just like, I'm probably just going to take you to work every day now. So that you don't have to deal with this. It's crazy. And, it's frustrating because if you've lived here your whole life, and there's, not as many of us anymore, but for those of us who lived here, it's like, yeah, we didn't always live like this, man. It ain't normal. But, you get some douchebag tech bro that shows up and, and makes 500 grand a year or something. They put up with all this shit. And you basically just have to go along with it because they're like, oh, it's just part of urban living. It's like, no, it's not. Not anything you actually want. I mean, I get it. You get to, message home to people in Wyoming or whatever, or Utah about how, your car got bipped and you feel special. Whereas the rest of us are like, yeah, I don't want my car broken into. I don't want my insurance rates to go up, and I don't want to deal with the, all of the things that come along with having my car broken into. And that's one tiny little thing. But you get these idiots who romanticize it, and here we are. The other reason you're seeing closures is because businesses are getting shoplifted from constantly. This is another one that drives me nuts. And we have, again, these idiots that are around here in the Bay Area who try to downplay it or just play the angle of it's corporate greed. It's corporate greed. If you are a store constantly getting shoplifted and your moronic state tells you you can basically just steal under $1,000 and you won't get hit with heavy charges. And then you have district attorneys that just basically are like, don't do that again. And then they throw you back out there. That means you're just constantly getting hit with people who come in, steal shit. Nobody stops them. Nobody does anything about it. And you're just out that money. There's no compensation for you. So you've had a bunch of businesses closing because they're like, it just isn't worth it. The shoplifting is so rampant. And people try to act like, it's just corporate greed. What business doesn't want to be open in one of the biggest metropolitan centers in the fucking world? What logic is there in that? None. Any business that can be open in San Francisco wants to be open in San Francisco. But when you make things so unhospitable, yeah, they're going to close up shop. Unless you're Nintendo. Now, I think realistically, the best alternative location would have been San Jose, which is in the South Bay here in the Bay Area. Now, San Jose, the problem, I think, the reason it wouldn't have been chosen is there's no name cachet there, right? The average person doesn't know San Jose. Or if they do know San Jose, maybe vaguely associating it with Silicon Valley or something. But the average person doesn't know San Jose. So having bottles that say Nintendo San Jose, sweat tops, etc., it's just not a smart business decision, I would imagine. Los Angeles, I think, would have been a better choice, mainly because I know it would piss off San Francisco people because they hate Los Angeles. I like LA. I don't care if the Dodgers swept the A's. Fuck you guys, but still, the Giants hate you. So there we go. But yeah, LA probably would have been a better choice. It's bigger. I think the name recognition is larger, or at least equal to San Francisco. But they have similar problems with crime and so on. But the Bay Area is also Nintendo has connections here in San Francisco and the Bay. So I think that's ultimately why they were like, oh, okay. Plus, I'm sure the workers that are here probably conned them into it a little bit, just like, oh yeah, it's great. Yeah, totally open business here. Just don't pay attention to the shit swirls. It's fine. So, it's a beautiful location. It's 2 floors. The upper floor, and then you take stairs or an elevator down to the lower floor. It's pretty cool. Large Nintendo statues everywhere. You got Mario, you have Link, you have Animal Crossing, you have Zelda, Pokemon, Splatoon, and these are all the sections in the store as well. So the upper floor is Mario, the Mario family, Donkey Kong, you have Mario Kart, you have Animal Crossing, and then in the back corner is where you have a Switch customization area. And there's one downstairs as well where you can go in and you can select your own setup for a Switch. Now, don't get too excited. You're not going to be able to get a Zelda OLED. You're not going to be able to get any of the hard to find Joy-Con. It's the stock stuff that you can customize with. But it's a good selection. All the neons are there. It looks like the pastels are included. You can pick which colored dock you want. Do you want the white one? Do you want the black one? And the straps, right? You can pick the colors for those too. So it's pretty nice. Also, if you are in the market for just a dock, I need docks. I know that sounds weird, but I do because I take them to places I teach because it's either part of the job, like I'm teaching game design, or like with my younger students, like we play games as part of like our game club. So I occasionally need an extra dock. They stopped selling them through. I can't remember where I bought my first separate dock. It might have been through GameStop. All I know is you can't really easily just buy a dock anymore, especially like at a brick and mortar. But at Nintendo SF, you can go in and say, "Hey, I just need a dock," and they'll sell you one. So pretty cool. In terms of the merchandise, downstairs is where you have Pokemon, Splatoon, Zelda, Metroid, Pikmin. Did I say Pokemon? Maybe I'm repeating myself. Kirby, and I believe that covered everything down there. I was shocked to see a Metroid section. It's not very big, and even the person giving the tour acknowledged like that. There's not a lot of Metroid merchandise out there. They managed to get some together there for the store. Pretty cool. I was a sucker for the bags. I could not resist. I got a Splatoon backpack, a Zelda messenger bag, and a little like Mario sling backpack for gym activities. It's Tanuki Mario. It's a neat brown backpack. Could not resist. And then I got a Metroid water bottle, a metal thermos type. Now, all the merchandise is cool. It's not just, bags, of course. There's clothing, there's t-shirts, hoodies, jackets, figurines, little statuette things that you can only get at Nintendo SF, and there's merchandise that's branded to show you, hey, you can only buy it here. Upstairs, the Mario stuff where it's most prolific, there's like a lifestyles collection, which is it includes like housewares. So you can get these nice trays and plates, towels, and they have this beautiful, they're like hand painted art of the characters, which one of the reps in the building told us was actually a Nintendo of Japan worker who was just sort of making these images on their own for fun. And of course, Nintendo's like, oh, we can make money off of that. Can we use those? He's like, sure, go ahead. So that's where that beautiful art comes from. You have things like that. You have like giant cookie jar type of things. It's just everything you can imagine. The Animal Crossing, the Roost coffee stuff was in there. It was just so much. But that leads me to one of my other kind of quibbles here, which was I asked a worker, I said, so what are you guys going to do, in terms of trying to mitigate scalpers, and the impact that they might have on the store? And when we rolled up and we were waiting in line, there was already people poking their faces into the windows and looking. As I was inside shopping, I could see people looking in. There are already obviously real customers, but then there's also the scalper who's desperate to get in that store, buy everything, and sell it to you for double. So the worker is like, well, I'm not really sure if we're doing anything about that. But then he quickly turns around and says, but, as long as our merchandise is getting out there. And I looked at him and I said, not really. Not when I have to buy it for double. Not when you don't see a penny of that extra revenue. So let me be upfront. I can't fucking stand scalpers. Cannot. If you're a scalper, I am very fine with you not listening to my show. Yes, I know everyone has to eat, but I find your particular line of work very unsavory. I don't like that you can't just go readily buy basic little things anymore at a store because some dickhead whose entire life is an eBay shop comes in, swoops on everything, and then turns around and not only charges you more than you would have paid for it yourself, then you got to pay the shipping and handling for it too. Fuck that. But unfortunately, Nintendo doesn't care. I'll give you a prime example of this and why it's so obnoxious. Pokemon cards, right? That's the big one for scalpers. Lately, it's like, it's like the pandemic all over again, where you can't find anything in the stores. Now, here's my problem with this. It annoys me because I remember growing up. Now, I might be wrong on this, but I didn't have a car nor an income. Couldn't just go to the store whenever I wanted. But I remember as a kid, it was not easy to find Nintendo collectibles. The past, 15 years, I guess, is when we've really started to see more Nintendo things in stores. And then you have like Jakks Pacific show up and it's like Mario toys all over. But you never used to see any of these things. So it was always special when you could get your hands on it. But I think what was the easiest come, the late 90s was when Pokemon showed up. Now the games are, front and center. Those are the most important things. But also the ancillary stuff like the toys, and especially with Pokemon and collecting those cards, that is so instrumental for a kid growing up. And I'm telling you guys, Pokemon is as generational as it gets. I knew Pokemon had become generational when I was in a college class in, like the early to the mid to late 2000s, right? So pre 2010 probably. I remember being in class, in a science class in one of the big theater rooms, and the professor saying, "Oh yeah, I play Pokemon with my children every night before they go to bed." And it was an interesting moment. I'm just sitting there like, man, like, Pokemon is so long term at this point that you have people who have had children and are passing it down to them. And, again, that's like over a decade ago. But think about it. Now, because of this bullshit scalper culture that we have, if you're a mom, a dad, an aunt and uncle, a grandpa, a grandma, and you're just like, hey, I just want to, buy a pack of Pokemon cards for my kid, my niece, my nephew, my grandson, my granddaughter, you basically can't do it. And, yes, there's periods where it's a lot easier to go in and buy this stuff, but like to me it's disgusting that like it happens at all, that the scalpers just wipe out all of the inventory. And now we're in like this drought, at least here in the Bay Area, where you can't go into any stores and find any of the Pokemon cards. It's like, that's not okay. Like, I get it. I know I'm an adult collector. Some of what I'm buying, a lot of what I'm buying is something that, children want, okay? I work at a school. Part of my understanding of how generational Pokemon is the fact that from kindergarten all the way up to the middle school kids right now, they all know what Pokemon is. They all want Pokemon. But they are being robbed of something that my sister and myself got to experience, which was just the fun of something as basic as getting like a booster pack. Or, frickin' the little metal tin with a few packs in it. You can barely do that now because of some jack-off and his eBay store. It's just a pain. And then I got this Nintendo worker basically saying, as long as it gets out there. It's like, yeah, fuck you. As long as it gets out there, all we care about is the bottom line. Here's my mentality, though. As I told the worker, you don't make any money off of some eBay shithead doubling the price. So why do you want to encourage it? And also, it's like, oh, well, the stores, retailers just want to get the product out. Just sell it, sell it, sell it. I get that. You have a fucking line outside your store and you're not even open yet of people who want to come in and look. You are one of the marquee brands in the entire world. There will be no shortage of people coming through these doors buying this shit. So I look at it like, even if you're thinking about it from a fucking fiscal report, quarterly earnings call standpoint, your spreadsheet can't tell the difference between I sold out in an hour or I sold out in a day. Doesn't fucking matter. You sold out. And if you sold out in a day, at least you sold it to people theoretically who are just, wanting it, who are fans, who waited in line to get there and to buy. I just don't really understand the not giving a damn at all and just leaving fans to fend for themselves, especially now when it's so hyper aggressive. It's a lot harder. Like, for example, you go to like a swap meet. So we used to have, well, we still have it technically, but it's dead to me for the past few years. We have something called the White Elephant Sale here in Oakland. And unfortunately, the, I moved here 5 minutes ago crowd discovered it and just fucking ruined it. But it used to be a lot of local Oakland people just showing up, having fun. Big rummage sale. Benefits the Oakland Museum. I think the Women's Foundation or something like that. And so people would donate. And then, it was this legions of old people. It's so adorable. You go in, just nothing but 60, 70, 80-year-old people who handle the show. They go through, they price everything. They're not trying to rip you off. You'd find stuff, I'm talking like change, 75 cents, little stickers, masking tape, 50 cents. And it was just so fun to go through the toy section. It would be me, my sister, my mom. They'd be going for Barbie, Hello Kitty. I'd be going in looking for Nintendo. And I'd find all these cool things. Not for my fucking eBay store, but for me as a collector. And other people were coming in there and doing that too. And yeah, I'm not naive. I'm sure that there were some people who were, buying for their shop or whatever. But this was pre the eBay days, pre TikTok and some shithead who's like, I'm gonna open cards, guys. I'm gonna put on my black latex gloves and I'm gonna open them up for you. You can even hear it open. It'll be like ASMR for you. Like, none of that idiocy was going on, okay? Different world now. The white elephant sale gets ruined. The scalpers just show up in hordes to get their hands on everything so that they can mark it up and sell it on Poshmark, sell it on whatever. It's just, it's so nauseating. And part of it is enabled by technology. Look at sellouts online for merchandise now, where some a-hole sets up bots so they can swoop and swarm on something. And these companies know it. And they don't care and they don't do anything about it. And so it sounds like Nintendo SF, at least to start, isn't planning to do anything about it. Isn't that lovely? But, as I was getting my stuff and leaving, I told the workers, I said, I can guarantee you there is someone right now who is planning and plotting a way to smash a car through the front doors of this facility and steal everything inside. So I would highly recommend installing some bollards, getting some metal drop-down rollers to close the windows with at night. And honestly, I'd get ones that go on the outside. I wouldn't do the inside. They're gonna fuck up all that beautiful Nintendo art that is on the windows. They have the marching characters. Yeah, that's gonna get ruined. I highly suggest you take precautions. But right now, they're running it like it's a normal San Francisco from 2007, and it ain't. I'll give them credit, though. They are doing their best in terms of trying to make it fair and serviceable for people to come in. Like I said, there's I'm not sure if I said this earlier, but there's a digital queue. You have to get in line and make an appointment, basically, to come in. So slots, are put up, you reserve, you get to come. They're not sure how long they're going to do it that way. It might get to the point where eventually you can just walk in. But for now, I think they said at least until Memorial Day, they're going to have this reservation system. And, that means they're making sure that people aren't just like coming in. You can't just walk in. So this will help do some damage control, I hope, against the scalpers, but no guarantee, right? And I don't actually know what they will do if some asshole just shows up and is going to buy everything. That Metroid section, I mentioned the Metroid bottle. I wanted the Nintendo San Francisco water bottle because it was bigger and would hold more drink because, I'm fat. But instead, I got the Metroid one, which was smaller, but pretty awesome. Because I'm like, like, I'm going to get this because the Nintendo SF one will always be here in theory. This Metroid one might not, especially because there's not a lot of Metroid merchandise. And some shithead scalper will come in and say, I'm going to buy all 6 of these and just clear out that shelf. But will they? I don't know. I cannot confirm that that is what will happen. But based on what the worker told me, it's possible that it could happen. So make of that what you will. But yeah, it was fun. There's a downstairs giant screen that you can play on. My sister and I played Mario Kart together. I won. That's right. I won. For a change. She usually wins. But it's beautiful. It feels very clean. It feels Nintendo. If you've ever been to Nintendo New York, you know what you're getting into, or any of the international Nintendo stores. But it's very high quality, very great stuff that you see there. And I highly recommend it. If you're in the area and you want to check it out, go do it. You're not restricted to the store, meaning if you're purely just after merchandise, you don't necessarily care about the experience. A lot of what is in there you can get through the Nintendo website, but I mean, I'm of the opinion that those experiences are totally worth it, are totally half the fun, if not a big chunk of it. So if you're into that, you should totally go. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm talking shit about San Francisco. I'm talking shit because it's the result of gross incompetence. Um, and in some cases, I actually am suspicious if it's intentional. But the uh, the decay it's very annoying. But part of it too, besides the crime and the drugs and the shit and all the other madness going on in downtown San Francisco, it's also just that same crowd, right? I work in tech and I make half a million and my head is inserted squarely up my butthole. That crowd doesn't seem to give a damn about in-person experiences anyway. That's the DoorDash crowd. That's I live through Amazon and Uber Eats. I've heard people refer to the demand generation. These are people I have sincerely discovered people who don't own silverware. Like the forks, spoons, and knives in their life are the plastic ones that come from the food places that they order. I can't even imagine living like that, even if I had $500,000 to fuck off with. Like, it's just crazy. And so, part of what's making retail die too is that you have these people who are content with never fucking going anywhere. And I think that is just such a crying shame. So much of my youth was spent going out. My parents liked to go places. They were interesting people. It's always just a million different locations. And when you're in a place like the Bay Area, one of the most desirable places to go in the world, you absolutely should be out and experiencing it and seeing it in person. So I'm grateful that Nintendo brought me this experience not far from where I live. It's just not in the ideal spot. And yeah, anyway, I could rant about it for forever. So Nintendo SF open now. Go give it a look. All right, let's see. Let's look at a couple other things before I close out this talk today. One thing that caught my eye was that Ubisoft put out its fiscal year 24-25 financials report. Solid balance sheet. According to GamesIndustry.biz, despite hefty drops in revenue and back catalog sales. CEO says Ubisoft will provide additional development time to some of our biggest productions in order to create the best conditions for success. Well, keep in mind, that's the same Ubisoft that had to just create this whole new partnership with Tencent, right? Where they're like licensing in perpetuity a bunch of their brands to Tencent to, stay solvent and stay afloat. Needless to say, Assassin's Creed Shadows has been a massive inflection point in the culture wars, and we still there are some sales numbers for the game. It's been hyped up as like it's this big success. It doesn't really actually seem like it is. It seems like it has pretty middling sales, honestly. But I find just the turmoil in the industry to be so obnoxious, and I get tired of hearing about it. But Assassin's Creed Shadows caused a lot of drama. If you're unfamiliar with it, the game legitimately pissed off the people of Japan. A lot of people in Japan were complaining about the game, so much so that it was starting to get to some of their elected officials. Issues with destroying shrines, but the biggest one being the portrayal of the character Yasuke, who is in history regarded as a retainer, which is like not actually a samurai, more of an honorific type of position. There's a lot of controversy over the portrayal of Yasuke in that game, but particularly the fact that Ubisoft is playing fast and loose with history to push the character as something that this real life person probably was not. Um, but you had everyone from every outlet you can imagine just carrying water for Ubisoft, because in terms of the culture wars, the mainstream outlets, again, they lean one direction politically, and for them it's a big political game. And if you don't say the right things about Assassin's Creed, or if you say something that seems to align with the wrong people, that's bad and we can't do that. But it's like, it's to the point where you have like denial of the Japanese who aren't happy. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess the whole country's wrong and bad and evil based on what you're telling me. But, Ubisoft is not in the greatest place. They're porting like Star Wars Outlaws to Switch 2. I mean, good luck with that. That game looks no bueno, but they're going to try to squeak some more pennies out of it. We'll see if that helps, but that was mentioned today. There was another thing I thought that was gaming related I felt like discussing. I guess that was about it in terms of the game stuff. It caught my eye. I just felt like talking about it a little bit, but I guess I will round out tonight by talking about something I mentioned in the last episode, which was All-Star Batman. So, excuse me. All-Star Batman. If you are unfamiliar, it's like DC's 20-year later proper response to the Ultimate Universe. Now, Marvel actually relaunched its Ultimate Universe, right? You had Ultimate Spider-Man come out, again, as like the flagship. And by all accounts, it's been very well received, particularly because it gave fans a married Peter and MJ. I could not care less about them having children. I'd actually prefer they don't have children, because I hate kids and comics and the whole family thing. If Franklin and Valeria disappeared in the Fantastic Four, I would be thrilled. Like, okay, they're in a black hole. Oh, how sad. Bye-bye. But anyway, if you don't know what I mean when I say ultimate, it's alternate universe is the basic way of thinking about it. Separate from long-time continuity in the comics. Absolute Batman is exactly that. The absolute line for DC is that. Now, the writer Scott Snyder has come back to Batman to do this series. He's known for relaunching the character in the New 52 era with Greg Capullo, the whole Court of Owls thing. If you go into a Barnes & Noble right now or your local comic shop, you'll see those little $10 copies of the Court of Owls. Now, Snyder's not necessarily universally loved. I think there's plenty of people that didn't like all of his work on the character. I enjoyed Snyder's run. I particularly liked that I got the sense that his version of Bruce, from a personality standpoint, was kind of skewing towards Christian Bale's portrayal in the Christopher Nolan films. Sort of a mellow type of dude. As down to earth as Batman can be, right? Less grim and dark is how I perceived Christian Bale's take on Bruce. And Scott Snyder's Bruce came across that way to me. So he gets to do Absolute Batman. And it's just taking the character down to the studs. It's Batman from just a completely different sort of headspace and take. Now, I'm going to say I have enjoyed it up to this point. It's bombastic. It's crazy. His version of Batman is this larger than life hulking creature, basically. Not how he is in the regular Batman comics. I mean, he is very large. He is very imposing in a way that standard Bruce is not. Even the cape is different. He's taking concepts of bats, like bats walking around on their wings. Bruce's cape can kind of like he can walk with it if he wants to. It can like make shapes and so on. But here's my problem with Absolute Batman. It's the one part of it that I don't like. It reeks of Scott Snyder's politics. Scott Snyder is another person, very culture wars, very leans one direction. So, what he's doing in this, and there's some spoilers, right? Spoiler warning right now. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's happening in the books. Of course, it's been months, so you should know this part at least. But Bruce is not rich in this one. Bruce is very intentionally poor. And then in the opposite direction, the Joker is now the rich person. So I think you can see where Scott Snyder is going with this. The evil, rich white man is the bad guy. The poor person is the hero. Now, from a storytelling standpoint, that offers all sorts of interesting things for the character, where you might have to have a more resourceful Batman, because now he can't manufacture everything himself. Now he's going to have to procure things on site. He's going to have to harvest from his enemies. He's going to have to get creative with his gadgets and his tools and so on. That is where that should go. And the story kind of does. I'll talk about that in a minute. But see, I know that's not where Scott Snyder's coming from in making Bruce poor. He's making Bruce poor because politically he believes rich people are evil. And if Bruce is rich, well, that just feeds into the Reddit scholar idea that Bruce's wealth is a problem when it's actually not. And you've heard some incredibly stupid arguments, right? Like, why doesn't Bruce just spend his billions to give people money and then there won't be crime in Gotham? Okay, first of all, look at Batman's rogues galleries. The rogues gallery, they're fucking crazy, okay? Most of them, the money doesn't actually mean anything. If you want to get real vanilla with it, just look at the Joker in Dark Knight with the whole burning money thing, right? You know, the point is sending a message, okay? They're crazy. It doesn't fucking matter how much money you give them. They don't care about that. They're still gonna kill people. They're still gonna light things on fire. They're still gonna do the crazy shit that they do because they're crazy. They're violent. The money isn't changing that. Now, average criminals on the street, again, so you might see there's some overlap here. The same people I'm complaining about in San Francisco and the Bay Area who show up and live through DoorDash and Amazon, those are the same people that think Bruce being rich is bad, and that if he just gave money to the quote-unquote poor people, there would be no crime. These are people who don't live in the real world, my friends. I hope you're a real world person who's listening to me right now, okay? I didn't own a car until I was in my almost 30s, alright? So I know what it's like to be someone on foot, taking the bus everywhere, taking BART everywhere, not having money, even now, not really having money. Okay? The way people talk about people who are poor, or people who are brown like I am, or other minorities, black people, the way some of these people talk about us is so mind-bogglingly ignorant. I don't know what to say. Now, I'm not going to say I'm poor. I'm not trying to give you that impression, okay? I grew up in a fairly middle-class family. We always just had enough, though. We were never rich by any means. And so I know what it's like to, just have enough. I know what it's like to struggle. There's been times I have been broke as an adult, okay? And you get these armchair psychologist takes from people who are just so oblivious. It's incredibly frustrating. And that's the vibe I get from Scott Snyder. And that's the vibe I get from his Batman is poor. Now, the reason I'm saying what I am about, like, you could have some good story possibilities, I'm saying it because I haven't seen it yet in the book. His Batman still has all sorts of crazy-ass technology, and I guess it's being written off as, well, Bruce works for the city as an engineer, so he's probably just lifting technology and, doing stuff that way. But, like, the dude's Batmobile is, like, a giant earth mover. It's fucking enormous. I think they'd notice an earth mover that's gone missing. I don't even know how you hide it and get away with it in a chase. So, I have problems with that aspect of it. It's the activist I can't help myself part of him that I don't need anywhere near my books. That said, he hasn't been super heavy-handed with any of that kind of politicking for the most part. But overall, I am enjoying the story. That opening arc with this different take on Black Mask, and then trying to incite anarchy in Gotham. Now, I will say that the resolution felt a little weird to me, where these guys were like being enticed by money to just like go out and do horrible crimes and things. And then all of a sudden the money dries up and the bloodlust is just gone. Like, oh, there's no money now, never mind. And to me, that kind of speaks to the disconnect, right? The idea that if I just give you enough cash, you won't be a bad person who does crime anymore. It's like, yeah, there are some people who are hard up and they steal because they like legitimately have no other choice. And then there are people who are just shitty people and make bad choices in life and become thieves and criminals. So, like that boiling point where you have Gordon and Bruce's mother and they're like surrounded, but then all of a sudden the money's, no more money. So it's like, oh, okay, we're not the bad guys anymore. It's like, you're probably a real giant piece of shit if you were even contemplating, you were going to kill someone because they were going to throw some money in your bank account. The psychosis that goes into that is a little more complicated than I think Scott Snyder is giving it credit for. Now, maybe I'm misreading something here. I will go through those first 6 issues again, and if I have a different conclusion, I will straight up say it. But that was my takeaway from the opening arc. It was fascinating seeing Alfred interpreted as like this like Black Ops type of guy. But again, it's because Bruce isn't rich, so he can't have a butler, and a butler is some form of tyranny or something, I'm sure, in the minds of Scott Snyder. So, regardless, it was nice to see Alfred back. Their pairing up is pretty interesting. Bruce's personality is, still kind of in line with Bruce from the Court of Owls. A little bit different, though. Particularly, he's not as much of a loner. The one thing that I thought was rather fascinating was taking the Rogues Gallery, and they're Bruce's friends, his childhood friends. And you're just sitting and you're like, okay, I'm waiting to see who turns, who becomes awful. It's basically just going to be all of them. I don't know. But it has been entertaining seeing those relationships, how they're different from in the regular comics. However, again, I can't help it, because I know where Scott Snyder comes from. The second any of them goes bad, you're supposed to think, well, they're a bad guy, but. Bad guy, but is how you get poo swirls and the Armageddon that's on the streets of San Francisco. It's suicidal empathy. It's, you can't just have a bad guy, because the bad guy has to have something that makes you sympathetic for them. Why do I have to feel sympathy for Batman's Rogues Gallery? Some of them you do anyway, right? Like, Mr. Freeze is sympathetic. Well, until Tom King takes a giant fucking dump on him. But Mr. Freeze is sympathetic, because it's like, okay, he's bad, he does bad things. He also really loves his wife and wants to, get her out of this stasis that she's in. But like overall, like the Joker, I don't need to feel sympathy for him. And of course, this book is very carefully designed so that you will not have sympathy for the evil rich white man. But for these other characters, it's establishing this friendship, these bonds with Bruce. And then if they go bad, or when they go bad, you will look back and think, well, but there's a little bit of good in them, or there's a reason they did this or that. And it's like, yeah, that's fine sometimes. I don't need it for like Batman's whole Rogues Gallery. And the number of people in Bruce's crew, it's a lot of them, and a lot of the notable ones. You've got Harvey, you've got Penguin, you've got Riddler, you've got Killer Croc. Selina's part of it, though we haven't seen her yet, like in the modern setting of the book. But still, I'm having fun with seeing Bruce with friends, and it's a group of them. And they know he's Batman. So, that was one of my favorite aspects of Brian Michael Bendis's Ultimate Spider-Man run. Was issue it is issue 13, I believe, when he reveals to MJ that he is Spider-Man. Because I remember, I mean, for one thing, if you've never read Bendis's Ultimate Spider-Man run, first of all, I'm going on a tangent. You're just going to have to put up with it. I'm assuming you like comic books if you're listening to what I'm talking about. I love that run. That is probably my favorite interpretation of Spider-Man in anything. It's incredible. It's such a good run, and it's clever. It came out as I was in high school, so it felt very relatable. Bendis, when he's good, Bendis fell off a cliff, folks. But at the time, this was Bendis firing on all cylinders, and his dialogue was fun. It felt natural the way people spoke to each other in the book. And I'm not like this big crybaby about decompressed storytelling. I know people get all up in arms about it. Whatever. You can do decompressed or not. Good stories are good stories. So anyway, part of the core of that book is that Peter is a high school kid the entire time. He's a minor, he's underage, he's living under Aunt May's roof. It's the first chunk of Amazing Spider-Man, with Ditko, where Peter's a high school kid taken to the nth degree, okay? And I remember when he reveals who he is to MJ, I'm like, yeah, duh. Why wouldn't you? I mean, it's one of the things that annoys me about the character sometimes, which is it's like the fixation on, I gotta hide my identity, I gotta hide my identity, I gotta hide my identity. It's like, okay, I get it, but at the same time, it's like, it's MJ, bro. And like reading Ultimate Spider-Man, like you think of it, and I think it's why Bendis did it, is that you're just like, we've established they've known each other forever. He obviously fucking loves her, this is like his bestie, but also she's beautiful, he wants to be with her. There's no way on the face of the earth that a normal kid wouldn't tell MJ in that scenario, especially because he's getting her to want to be with him without her even knowing he's Spider-Man. Because he fakes out on a date, right? Because he gets hurt fighting, I think it's the Enforcers or Kingpin or both, Electro, whoever it is in that arc, right before issue 13. He tells her, I can't go out. And he can tell she's annoyed. So I'm thinking, well, if you love this woman, you have a history with her, odds are pretty fucking low that she's going to betray you. There's no reason to not tell her. What? Why? You just want to fuck her over every single time you go on a date? Sorry, MJ, I gotta take a big shit. I'll be back in 3 hours. Sorry, MJ, Aunt May, she needs help with the remote control. I gotta leave right now in the middle of a theater. Like, all the stupid things Peter will do, traditionally, that he's doing an Amazing Spider-Man as we speak. It's just like, why would you do that? You don't have to do it. The only person it makes sense that he would lie to would be MJ, especially from, like, the perspective of he's a kid. Yeah, I'm not going to tell my aunt I'm doing something highly illegal and dangerous. I will hide that from her. But my girlfriend? Yeah, I'm going to tell her I'm Spider-Man. Hell yeah. So, similar kind of thing here where the crew knows Bruce is Batman, and he had to confide in Croc because he was hurt and he needed help. So now they all know, and they all have opinions on it. And I'm looking forward to just the evolution of the relationship, especially knowing that Oswald in particular has some shady business deals going on. So how's he going to feel about his friend being this vigilante? So, yeah, it's really good. Now, Wes on Thinking Critical, I guess I'm going to mention Wes every time I do this show. I don't know. Wes, I want to be your friend. Wes has criticized the violence. Like, he thinks Batman, like, is just straight up, he has to be killing people. It's entirely possible he's not killing people. Scott Snyder is giving the impression that he knows exactly what he is doing, meaning Bruce, when he's, like, impaling people, or he cuts off a limb. Because it's like, he knows, I can hit you right there, and it won't kill you. But it'll really fuck you up. I think that's what he's going for. Might be wrong. Maybe we find out later he has been killing people. I don't know. But like Alfred mentions at one point that Bruce had taken one of his guns and made it non-lethal. Again, I'll reread. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think Bruce is killing anyone. I think you can do the things he's doing and not kill people. But Wes is, I guess looking at some of the carnage and just thinking, there's no way. I don't agree. I think it's possible. I do think it's a little, silly that it's like, this Batman will maim you. It's like, okay, at what point just kill people, okay? If you're gonna cut somebody's like both of his arms off, you have no hands anymore because of Batman, but he left you alive. That's the line, is that you can still breathe. I don't know, man. Like, do I really need that? I guess. I don't know. But Absolute Batman has been fun. The last two issues, I think, have been Mr. Freeze. I have the first part of the Mr. Freeze arc. I think the second one was still coming out, so I haven't gotten the second one yet. Don't even know if it's in stores, but I'll check. I'll try to be a little more timely with some of these comic reviews, assuming I can keep doing this timely. But as a first arc, those first 6 issues, it's fine. It's a good story. It's fun. Ignore the modern dayness of Scott Snyder, and you'll get more out of it. If you can't help but be aware of it as you're reading it, like I am, and you can smell the culture wars coming off of him, it takes away a little bit. But there's no denying it's good. And I look forward to every issue that comes out. And let's face it, there are not a lot of series that are like that. In fact, you know what? Let me end with something else. This is how I will end. Your boy Zach, all right? A lightning rod of controversy. I will admit, even though I've been paying attention to Zach for probably 2 years now, maybe a year and a half to 2 years, I was not particularly familiar with his past. I've been getting it piecemeal. I don't know every bit of it. I think he had a lawsuit. I think maybe he's the guy that had the lawsuit with Mark Waid. But regardless, he has pissed a lot of people off. But the thing is, he pissed people off because Zach was on the wrong quote-unquote side of the culture war, okay? He leaned a little too far right in the eyes of some people, right? So that just means he's an evil, bigot, istophobe. I don't think that way at all. I think Zach makes a lot of interesting points in some of his videos. I also think that Zach's pretty quirky. I get the impression that, I don't know if temperamental is the right word, but Zach's particular about things. He has ways that he thinks about them. Some of his views can sometimes feel contrary. What I don't know is if Zach is just a contrarian. I don't really think that that's true, but he will say certain things that like kind of go against what you would expect when it comes to like maybe liking or disliking something, for example. He's kind of notorious, at least based on what I've seen and heard, for some interesting takes on movies and what movies are good or are not. But his latest thing is that he hates people like Nerdrotic, Heel versus Babyface, Mauler, Critical Drinker. He really hates Critical Drinker. Disparu. These are all people that are on his radar. He does not like them. And his interpretation is that they are grifting, they hate everything, they don't actually like any of this stuff, they're just there to complain, and they're drowning out the good things because of what they're doing. Particularly in terms of comic books. So, Zach has returned to doing more reviews on his channel of comics, but I get frustrated listening because it's like, even when he's doing a review, he'll bring up he'll bring up Drinker, he'll bring up Nerdrotic. And I'm just like, dude, I get it. You hate them. I'm not here to hear that you hate them. That's not why I'm tuning into your channel. You can tell me you hate them once, maybe twice, maybe something relevant comes up and it's necessary to talk about them. But there's like always videos, it looks like, on his channel of just like complaining about them complaining. And I'm like, I don't care, man. Like, what is this content? Okay, you don't like them. Move on. It's like they're not going away. But I think my larger problem is that, like, well, so again, I'm piecing things together, right? There is no just like handbook for this. I think Wes was posting about people showing him support because I think Zach had been talking crap about him. And it was one of his community posts on YouTube. He was taking a shot at Wes and his view on things. So here's the thing, though. Wes works his ass off to promote what he likes and is honest about what he thinks is dog shit. And frankly, a lot of the stuff Wes has considered dog shit sometimes lines up with what Zach hasn't liked, or in the past at least hadn't liked. I'm not saying it was a 1-to-1 ratio, but they seem to kind of see eye to eye on certain things. At least they seem to have respect for the fact that both of them were pretty legit. Wes just gives honest opinions, isn't really too over the top. But as Zach has soured on uh, the negativity, he seems to have maybe at least soured a little bit on Wes, or at least that video from Wes. But I'm like, I don't think it's fair at all. Wes will every week tell you what books you should be picking up. He's like, this is the best of the week. Here are the books I had a lot of fun with. He talks extensively about them. Now, am I happy with all of Wes's coverage, like the quality of it? No. Sometimes I go nuts listening to Wes's videos where I can't understand what he's saying sometimes. And I also feel like he doesn't include critical details when he's like doing a review. It's like, okay, you're reviewing it. I mean, I know you don't necessarily want to spoil, but like, you leave out so much detail sometimes, it just feels really vague. So I'm going off track here a little bit, but like, that's to me the sins of Wes. But Zach is here upset because Wes is, pointing out something that isn't good. And I guess Zach either thinks it's good or is just tired of hearing people say, that's bad, that's bad, that's bad. Look, man, I don't know what to tell you, but those death threats that everybody was throwing your way for the longest that you probably still get, Drinker gets those death threats. Nerdrotic gets those death threats. Some maniac set off, I think, a smoke bomb or a tear gas bomb at like a Chrissy Mayer event. These are people with targets on their backs because they don't like certain movies and comics and games. That same mob that hates Zach hates them. That went after Zach went after them. And when Zach is going on and on about different personalities in the comic book industry that he has no problem pointing out are undesirables, who are there for reasons that they shouldn't be, who have done more damage than good, like he has no problem calling out a Heather Antos, for example. It's like these same sort of, like the logic that goes into what you're saying about them is the same logic going into Az complaining about Ubisoft or Gary complaining about Disney Marvel. Like, these things are all dovetailing. Like, I don't see how you don't see the connection. So it's like, I don't know if maybe I just haven't been interpreting Zach's videos correctly, but like when he's complaining about shitty comics in the past, it's like, yeah, all the reasons those comics are shitty are the same reasons that movies are shitty, are the same reasons when a game is shitty. So why shouldn't they be pointing that out? Why shouldn't they be continuing to say, yeah, here's some dog shit right here. Here's the latest project from a writer or team of writers who frankly shouldn't be on books, who have nothing but activist intent, who don't know how to write stories, on and on, right? I want that. I want to hear that. I don't want to waste my fucking money on a book from someone who hates me. Again, you've got, God, I'm going to forget her name right now, sorry, but, Miss, if you don't like my politics, then don't buy my books. Okay. I mean, it really shouldn't matter. I shouldn't have to align with you politically. I've read books from people I know don't have the same values as me. It's not a big deal if you're not shitting on me or attacking me. It's life. We don't agree. Okay. But when people are intentionally antagonizing, don't want to have you around, try to cancel you, and on and on and on, all the awful things that happened to Zach, and he's fighting against it in the comics, well, Wes is here giving an authentic take on the things that he's reading. I don't always agree with Wes, but I don't for a minute think the man is grifting. I don't think that he is, just trying to drum up controversy to get some clicks and likes and dollars from people. I think he legitimately cares about what he's doing. I think he actually really likes covering comics. And most comics fucking suck right now. It's different than at any point in the entire, almost 40 fucking years that I've been alive. There have always been less good comics. There have always been shitty comics, but in a different way, man. The stuff that we're getting right now, the slop that's being printed, it's amazing how bad it is. It genuinely astounds me sometimes when I look at what is published and just think, I don't know how anyone could have given that the green light. X-Men Green. You have some fucking weirdo character who murders a store clerk because a plastic bag from his shop, killed a turtle or something. And you are expected reading that story to feel some sympathy for the fucking weirdo that killed the store clerk over the plastic bag. That's not normal. And it's in our comics, and it's in our games, and it's in our movies. And so to lash out like Zack has been at these different people, I just find it mind-boggling. But he's entitled to his opinion, right? I mean, let's face it, Zack is one voice versus 20 voices that are trying to do something about this decay that's in the entertainment industry. I would not presume to tell Zack, you can't say that, you shouldn't say that, but I do think it's worth pointing out, I think you're misguided. I don't think you're quite right on this. But I don't think he helps himself when he's sitting there saying how much he hates hearing this, but then is just constantly talking about it. Are you hoping that people won't watch those shows anymore? I don't know that you're making a difference, because your crowd, you'll get 120 likes on a community post because you'll call Az a shithead. Well, are those 127 people even watching heel versus babyface content? Probably not. Maybe it's just cathartic for him to do it. I don't know. But it's killing my enjoyment of his channel. Because I'm tuning in, not for that. It's yeah, you hate Gary. Okay, I don't care. You hate Gary. I got it. Let's move on. Where's your review? I want your review now. Thank you. Can I get the review? Oh, you hate Az. Okay, review? Oh, okay, a little review. Oh, you hate Drinker. Okay, got it. Where's your fucking review? Anyway, all right. So that's how we will leave it tonight, my friends. So episode 2 of season 2 is in the books. Be back next week. Again, I'm planning to expand content in some way. I might start just doing devoted, here's a review of a comic in audio form, maybe eventually video form. I'm still inching my way towards that. But you might start seeing some of that, just sort of standalone little content like that. And then the longer form like this, where I just get to talk about whatever I'm interested in talking about. And if 2 people want to listen, let them listen. Anyway, that's it for tonight. Thank you so much. I hope you all have a lovely afternoon, morning, evening, whatever it is when you listen.